neoliberal making, careening this way and that, the major capitalist governments have lost control, not just of the world, but actually of themselves and their own societies. And in their convulsions, they seem to be smashing the structures of post-war international governance. Given the roles of the Soviet Union and China as well as colonial peoples in ending the Second World War, these structures had embodied a compromise between the still strong imperialism of the capitalist world and the insurgent forces of anti-imperialism. While for decades after 1945, the West was able to harness their imperialist content in its efforts to dominate and exploit the rest of the world. The rest of the world's ability to refuse such domination and exploitation are increasingly effective. Today, China is the leader of this great refusal and is now playing a historically unique role. While the West is the fomenter-in-chief of the chaos unleashed on the world, China and its principal allies are emerging as the center of a spreading and steadying calm. They have already faced down the worst tantrums of the Trump administration, and they are now stabilizing international governance structures and developing their anti-imperialist content more fully. This is the first time in centuries that socialist and anti-imperialist forces are taking the lead in restructuring the world. Just consider two items from the news of the past week. At a time when, in the throes of crisis, the West has shelved the all-important climate agenda, China, having already made great strides in green technology, has breathed new life into it by taking an important further step. It had already promised carbon neutrality by 2060, and now has proposed a more proximate and quantified goal, a reduction of 7 to 10% from peak levels of its carbon emissions by 2035. This may seem like a modest goal, but China is huge and has a record of under-promising and over-delivering. At a time when Trump has called climate change the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, when his administration is urging the World Bank to lend for fossil fuel development instead of green technology, and when his administration is also busy destroying the apparatus of scientific policy making rather than rectifying its corporate deviations, China will naturally be seen to be the leader of the scientific approach to climate change, which the world majority countries already suffering from the worst effects of climate change will definitely appreciate. Secondly, while Trump's tariff mania is holding world trade to ransom for entirely domestic reasons, and preparations for the burial of the World Trade Organizations were underway, China has single-handedly revived that organization. It has announced that it will no longer claim developing country status under its terms. This means sacrificing considerable license to indulge in protection and becoming more open to trade with the rest of the world. China is forsaking developing country status while countries with comparable per capita incomes are still claiming it. Given the size of China's economy, this can only be music to the ears of trade and economy ministers of the majority of the world's countries that have had to think about how to replace US markets. Finally, gathering annually to take stock of China's path to development and to socialism will be important because as the power structures of the capitalist world totter, as they lose layer after layer of their legitimacy domestically, and as doubts about capitalism grow to heights not seen since the Great Depression, and as the ugly nakedness of Western imperial aggression can no longer be covered by its threadbare propaganda, as seen most clearly in the case of Gaza today, serious anti-imperialist and socialist forces are finally organizing, ending the decades-long night of neoliberalism. The process is still fitful, as we have witnessed in this country with the misfortunes that have befallen your party. However, that process must and will gather momentum. And as it does, it will need to learn from the People's Republic and form links with it. The annual Socialist China conference is poised to make critical contributions to this very important and constructive process. I'm sure that our panelists today, both in this panel and other panels to come, will be addressing these points and many others in the course of the afternoon. So it's time to go to the panels. But before that, I have one more duty to discharge, to thank all the supporters of this event. They are the Morning Star, the Communist Party of Britain, the Workers' Party of Britain, the Communist Party of Ireland, the International Manifesto Group, Black Liberation Alliance, Iskra Books, Praxis Press, Manifesto Press, the Young Communist League, Caribbean Labour Solidarity, Third World Solidarity, No to NATO, and the Institute for Independent Studies. Empire Watch will be providing media support. And I would also like to give special thanks to the Embassy of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela for welcoming us to this historic building. So let us now turn to this afternoon's business, beginning with the current panel. I would like first to introduce Jiang Zhouteng, Minister, Counsellor at the Embassy of the People's Republic of China.
Okay, should I hold? Okay.
Is that okay?
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Thank you all.
Oh, sorry.
I feel so honored to be invited here to attend this important conference. I would thank our great friends, particularly the friends of Socialist China, my good colleagues, Comrade Keys and Comrade Carlos, and all other organizations associated with Friends of China to make this event possible. On behalf of the Chinese Embassy in the UK, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks and sincere respect to comrades and friends who have shown long-standing support and assistance to China and the support to China-UK relationship. Chair, Professor Desa had a very good introduction, mentioned a lot of things about China and China's position, China's policy in today's world. Maybe later I will have respond and some echo comments on her remarks. As you know, China has made a lot of progress and achievements since its founded in 1949. I would like to take this opportunity to share with my observations about that with you. Firstly, I would like to talk about the Chinese economy, the growth. Over the 76 years, China's economy has experienced massive growth. China now has become the world's largest economy since 2010. In 2024, China's GDP reached 134.9 trillion yuan, which roughly about 19 trillion US dollars, which is a 5% increase over the previous year. The annually added value of GDP is actually equivalent, roughly equivalent increase, total GDP of medium-sized economic entity in the world. In the first half of this year, China's economy grew by 5.3%, continuing a stable and upward trend. What's more, not only has the size of China's economy has expanded massively, but also its quality and being tremendously improved. China's economy is shifting from high-speed growth to high-quality growth, increasingly driven by innovation, domestic consumption, and sustainability. Indeed, there are many interpretations regarding the reason behind Chinese economic miracle. In my view, there are three factors stand above others, all others. First is the strong and far-sighted leadership, the Chinese leadership. No, it crafts long-range, strategically sound economic policies and then see them through to all, effective implementation, formulation of policies, but at the same time, efficient, effective delivery. Second is the Chinese socialist market economy. It's a quite unique economic system, which as a combination of socialism and a market system, which make China can make full use of the strength of socialism and as well as the market merits. Socialism is very good at macro planning and macro coordination. And the market system has its own strength in the micro economic efficiency. So Chinese system as a combination of that, which make full use of this strength and merits of both systems together. Third is a series of effective economic strategies. You may heard about the Chinese 5-year plan. China now has 14th 5-year plan since 1953. Yes, and now we are formulating the 15th 5-year plan. These 5-year plans have made tremendous change to the Chinese society, the economic development in particular. Secondly, I want to talk about the Chinese people's life. During the past 7 decades, Chinese people living much better than before. Chinese government is a government for people. We pursue a people-centered philosophy of development to make sure that people enjoy benefits and economic growth. We have built the world's largest education, social security, and a welfare system, which provide Chinese with secured, education, healthcare, and other basic public service. Massive production, among others, is a striking example, deserving much more attention. Chair has mentioned the poverty reduction in China as a huge contribution to the world's sustainable development. Since 1970s, or since the new China actually has lifted around 800 million people out of poverty. This counts over 70% of global poverty reduction during the same period. By the end of 2020, China met its poverty alleviation goals and eliminated absolute poverty throughout China. China also has actively shared with experience combating poverty with the rest of the world, particularly the developing country, the global south. It actively supports the UN 2030 agenda for sustainable development and contributes to the global poverty reduction efforts. China launched a number of initiatives and programs, such as the Global Development Initiative, the Belt and Road Initiative, and the various development cooperation platforms with Asia, Latin America, and African countries. All these initiatives and platforms have focused on the development issues and challenges, including cooperation on the poverty reduction. Thirdly, I want to talk about the green development. Green development has become a defining feature of Chinese progress. Today, renewable energy accounts for about 57.3% of China's total installed power capacity, making China both the largest renewable energy market and the largest manufacturer of renewable energy equipment. In 2024, China added 373 million kilowatts of renewable capacity, up 23% from the previous year, representing 64% of global increase that year. Just a few days ago, Chair also mentioned this important message. Our President Xi Jinping delivered video remarks at the United Nations Climate Change Summit and announced Chinese new nationally determined contribution. Among a lot of other pledges, President Xi announced that China will by 2035 reduce economic-wide net greenhouse gas emission by 7 to 10% from peak levels. Now, Professor Dessa also mentioned that China has a projector that to the 2030, China will reach carbon peak, and 2060, China will reach carbon neutrality. So the latest announcement by our president is a new promise to combating climate change. When China makes promise, it is serious and it is to be fulfilled. Fourthly, I will talk about the innovation that's very important for China's economy. China is vigorously implementing an innovation-driven development strategy, fully unleash the creativity of the Chinese people. Now, China produced around 5 million STEM courses graduates, which is #1 in the world. 5 million every year graduates, studying the STEM courses. China has achieved a remarkable and world-renowned science technology breakthrough in the fields like AI, quantum technology, manned space program, and etc. We also made advances in nuclear powers, high-speed rail, shipbuilding, and marine engineering. The open source AI model, DeepSeek, developed by a group of young Chinese team, quickly became a global sensation after its release. According to new statistics released by the EU, 2024, China has the biggest source of EU's high-tech imports. That's very amazing. China is the biggest exporter of the high-tech products to the EU. When the US imposed sanctions and imposed restrictions of high-end, advanced chips to China, China used its own ability to develop news. There's no worry about this kind of restriction. Innovation also created a lot of new industries and new forms of business. In 2024, the added value of new industries and new business forms has already accounted for over 18% of Chinese GDP. When you travel China, you will see that those new industries, such as the low altitude economy, China's already used the drones to deliver goods purchased from the internet. And we use, flying vehicles as a taxi to move people from the cities to cities or place to place. That's new industries. China supports science and technology cooperation with the rest of the world, not like some countries impose restrictions and set up barriers for such collaboration. There's a typical example, I know, maybe you also know, China shares its lunar soil samples collected from the moon with the rest of the world. The UK, I think the UK Open University, that's professor of the UK Open University, also got such sample for research. So China shares its, science advances with the rest of the world. and we'll continue to do that. The final point, yes, I'll come to try my best. The final point I want to make about the peace. China has made great contributions to world peace and stability. This is a very important topic mentioned by Chair. This year marks the 80th anniversary of victory of Chinese people's war of resistance against Japanese aggression and anti-fascist war. In the battleground in the East, China suffered more than 35 million military and civilian casualties and tied down over 70% of Japanese ground forces, making a huge contribution to the war against fascism. China is a peace-loving country, following independent foreign policy of peace since the founding of New China. China has never initiated a war or conflict, has never occupied each piece of land in the other countries over the past 76 years. China has always worked for peace and dialogue and the political settlement of international disputes, calling for ceasefires and civilian protection. Not long ago, President Xi Jinping put forward the Global Governance Initiative, this latest very important initiative developed by China to addressing the world challenges facing us today, which is underpinned by the following core principles. The Global Governance Initiative, they're the core principles. They are staying committed to sovereignty, equality, international rule of law, multilateralism, and the people-centered approach, and real results through real actions. This initiative aims to foster a more just and equitable global governance system, injecting stability and certainty into a turbulent world today. Come later, friends, to conclude, let me stress that China's development is not only a growth engine for global economy, but also a powerful source of strength for world peace. No matter how the world changes, China will always stand on the side of peace and justice, act as a builder of world peace, a contributor to global development, and a defender of international order. China will continue to make unremitting efforts to build a community with a shared future for mankind. Finally, let me allow to wish this conference a great success. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jiang Zhouteng, Minister Counsellor at the Embassy of the Chinese Republic of China. I think you've given us a really comprehensive overview of China's achievements, and I think also stressed China's orientation to peace, to development, which is basically what, and to sustainability. I mean, if you think about it, these are the things we need. We need to have a people-centered approach, we need to have a planet-centered approach, and we need to have a peace-centered approach. So thank you very much. Our next speaker is Pablo Arturo Ginarte Sampedro, the first Secretary of the Embassy of the Republic of Cuba. So please.
Thank you so much, dear Radhika Desai, dear colleagues from the embassies of People's Republic of China, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, and the Laos People's Democratic Republic, dear comrades and friends. It is a profound honor to address you today from this historic place, the Bolivar Hall, a beacon of Latin American culture and resistance here in London, graciously hosted by our dear Venezuelan comrades. On behalf of the people and government of the Republic of Cuba, I bring you the warmest, most fraternal greetings. This year, we celebrate a momentous milestone, the 65th anniversary of diplomatic relations between Cuba and the People's Republic of China. In 1960, revolutionary Cuba became the first nation in the Western Hemisphere to recognize the People's Republic. That decision was an act of sovereignty and principle, and it laid the foundation for what has become an unbreakable, ironclad friendship. That friendship was forged by the historic leaders of our revolutions, the Commander-in-Chief Fidel Castro Ruz and the Chairman Mao Zedong. From those early days, it has grown into a comprehensive strategic partnership. Today, we work hand in hand to build a China-Cuba community with a shared future. Our partnership extends well beyond trade and infrastructure. Equally important is our collaboration in science and technology. Together, we are building sovereign scientific capacity in the global south to the benefits of the fourth industrial revolution serve people, not only the profits of a few multinational corporations. This scientific solidarity is essential for achieving genuine independence in this 21st century. For Cuba, these are not abstract ideals. For more than 60 years, my country has resisted the most brutal and prolonged economic, commercial, and financial blockade in human history, a criminal policy imposed by the United States. In that struggle, our friendship with China has been a vital pillar of support. Through trade, investment, and solidarity, China has offered a crucial lifeline and shown the world that a model of relations based on sincere mutual assistance rather than imperial domination. What Socialist China offers the world is remarkable. Under the leadership of the Communist Party of China, the Chinese people has achieved what can only be described as a historic triumph, lifting nearly 800 million people out of extreme poverty. That achievement is the single greatest contribution to global human rights in our lifetime. It is a victory for China, for socialism, and an inspiration for the entire global South. At the moment when humanity faces the existential threat of the climate change, China is again at the forefront. It is the global engine of the green transition, producing the majority of the world's solar panels, wind turbines, and electric vehicles. China is demonstrating that development can proceed without destroying the planet, and that a socialist path can help build an ecological civilization. The same imperialist logic that tries to strangle my country through a criminal blockade is now attempting to stop China's peaceful development through a so-called new Cold War. They will not succeed. Cuba and China stand together in the United Nations and in every international forum. We deeply appreciate China's steadfast support for the resolution demanding an end to the blockade. Cuba will always defend the One China principle and oppose any interference in China's internal affairs. We stand for a multipolar world governed by international law, not by the unilateral dictates of any single power. We wholeheartedly support the global development, global security, and global civilization initiatives proposed by President Xi Jinping because they offer a realistic path toward peace, justice, and a shared prosperity for all. This vision of a world built on solidarity is not new to Cuba. We have practiced it for more than 6 decades. Even while enduring a brutal blockade, our commitment to humanity has never wavered. Indeed, during the darkest days of the COVID-19 pandemic, while wealthy capitalist nations practiced a cruel vaccine apartheid, Cuba sent 58 medical brigades to 42 countries and territories to help fight the virus. Today, 24,000 Cuban health collaborators continue to serve in 56 nations, primarily in the global south. That humanism is at the core of socialism. We do not give what is left over. We share what little we have. This same spirit of solidarity has guided Cuba's internationalism for decades. In this spirit, embodied by our dear comrades from Venezuela and China here today, that gives us unwavering confidence in the future. The path to socialism is not easy. It demands sacrifice, unity, and courage. Yet the achievements of the Chinese people and the enduring resistance of my people, the Cuban people, show that a better world is not only possible, it's being built day by day. Thank you so much.
After we do this, but Alexander was going to change the microphone, okay, before the next speaker.
Thank you so much, First Secretary Sampedro. It was really an important set of reminders about the heroism of Cuba, of the Cuban people, and also of their own technological achievements. I think what Cuba has achieved in the fields of medicine is truly remarkable, even though Cuba has, of course, had to surmount enormous economic difficulties facing the worst blockade. I think until Russia a couple of years ago, Cuba was the most sanctioned country in the world. So, I think that the way in which the capitalist West reacts to attempts by peoples to take control of their own economic destiny is exampled, I think, best in the case of Cuba. I believe we have a new microphone being supplied. No? Oh, okay, great. Okay, so I will now introduce our next speaker. Timofey Kunitskiy is Counsellor of the Embassy of the Russian Federation. So, Timofey, please go ahead.
So I won't say it's stuck.
Maybe just actually we can swap.
No, seems to be all right now. Thank you. Thank you very much. Dear friends in the audience, dear friends at this stage, and also dear friends in the engine room of this event, it is a privilege to be here. It is a privilege to be able, thanks to the kind invitation of the Friends of Socialist China, of Keith and his comrades, and the chair, to mark together the anniversary of these mementos. And it's not, of course, the first time you hear the word mementos today just because of the scale of the date. So the momentous event of the founding of the People's Republic of China. It is probably known to you that the Soviet Union was actually the first country to recognize the People's Republic of China at the international stage in 1949, and then it was very shortly followed by the Treaty for Friendship, Alliance, and Mutual Cooperation. And today, as we observe with great delight, continuous successes of our neighbor under the leadership of the Communist Party of China. We also glad to see our bilateral relations between the two countries standing at unprecedentedly high level and ever strengthening and expanding. This strategic choice for long-term development of our relations, at least as we see it in our country, and we appreciate that it is also seen like that in Beijing, has been yet again reflected this year, at least at the two major events, as you would know, in Moscow when we celebrated what we would call victory at the Great Patriotic War. Of course, in Britain it was celebrated as victory in Europe, and we have great respect to this. And also in September, when victory against militarism in the East was celebrated. It is not, however, just about bilateral domain and contribution of these bilateral relations to the development of our countries, what I'm going to speak, because our friendship and cooperation has always been placed in broader global context. It was historically inevitable. Here we must look again back to history, to 1930s and 1940s, well before the People's Republic of China was founded. We need to look at the historic stand of Chinese people against militarist Japan, and at the point when Soviet specialists and notably pilots would join the fight. And then later, when the USSR was fighting Nazi hordes, epic resistance of Chinese people at their theater helped to contain Japan in the East, and we wouldn't have stopped in the back. Whereas we also enjoyed the support of our allies in the West, British and United States Lend-Lease, as we would remember from the Arctic convoys. And then in 1945, Chinese people and Soviet people and other allied nations together made sure that the enemy is defeated both in the West and in the East, at the great cost, of course. Now our cooperation, or rather back then, our cooperation would be an important factor in establishing the post-war settlement. Chinese and Soviet cooperation would help to reinvigorate the anti-colonial movement, and anti-colonialism would for both our countries be among the most important missions in the decades that followed. Now our cooperation is a direct development of those strengths, obviously. On the one hand, remembering all the sacrifices and sufferings of 1930s and 1940s, we stand against the attempts to rewrite the history of the World War II, attempts to reassess the evils of that time. And also, at a broader level, we stand against the attempts to bring those evils back in any new form, to dismantle the historical memory of humanity, and to replace those well-established principles of world order and dialogue forged as a result of the victory in World War II with what some would call rules-based order, at the expense, inter alia, of the international law. On the other hand, we are united in our vision of building a just, multipolar world order with a focus on nations of the global majority. This is, of course, our form of fighting neocolonialism today. And finally, we see strategic partnership with China as a stabilizing force when it comes to the challenges and threats facing our Eurasian continent and the wider world. This issue is a constant focus of our bilateral political dialogue, and Russia's concept of creating a common space of equal and indivisible security in Eurasia, indivisible for all, resonates closely with President Xi Jinping's global security initiative. Of course, our efforts pursued not just bilaterally. Here we speak about multilateralism very importantly. That's why we attach such importance to the United Nations, to BRICS, it's impossible not to mention this very important forum, and to Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Within the latter, for example, since there was an important meeting there just less than a month ago, we have given careful consideration to the proposals put forward by President Xi Jinping for establishing a more effective and functional system of global governance. And this initiative is one that Russia supports. Of course, it is needless to say at this audience, but still I would stress it, that all this is being done in non-confrontational manner. It is not just as any actions of any of our countries, not directed against anyone, against any nation, against any state, and it is rather supposed to benefit everyone, benefit, even if it sounds too loud, but to benefit all of humanity. And now I would send very best wishes to the people of People's Republic of China, and also to wish all the best to everyone at this audience.
Thank you so much, Councillor Kunitskiy. I think that was a really, really helpful reminder of so many important things about the past that has brought us here, the Russian Revolution, the history of solidarity between Russia and China, historically, and also in a new form today. I think the increasing closeness of relations between the People's Republic of China and the Russian Federation is one of the most hopeful developments for peace and prosperity for humankind as a whole. And Councillor Kunitskiy has underlined exactly the ways in which the two hugely important, systemically important countries, one territorially the largest and one demographically nearly the largest, no longer, but nevertheless, nearly the largest. I think this is really very critically important for the future of defeating capitalist imperialism and allowing countries to take charge of their own economic destiny, to fashion economic models that work best for each country and for the people of each country. So thank you again very much. We will now go to our next speaker, Wilfredo Hernández Maya, Counsellor of the Embassy of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, Professor. Thank you, Minister, colleagues. On behalf of Ambassador Felix Plasencia Gonzalez and the Bolivarian government of Venezuela, I extend to you all a fraternal word of welcome to our Bolivar Hall, which today is honored to open its door once again to celebrate the 76th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China, together with friends of Socialist China, as well as representatives of Solidarity and diplomatic corps and of brotherly nations present here. Allow me to begin not only for thanking for the invitation, but also by expressing our sincere gratitude to Friends of Socialist China for choosing Bolivar Hall once more as the venue of this important gathering. Your presence in this space, which bears the name of our liberator, Simón Bolívar, is deeply meaningful. It unites the memory of the struggles for independence with today's commitment to building a fairer, more supportive and multipolar world. We also wish to give special thanks to the embassies of the People's Democratic Republic of Laos, People's Republic of China, Russian Federation and the Republic of Cuba, as well as to the solidarity movements whose steadfast commitments accompanies us in the defense of sovereignty, the self-determination of peoples and the respect for international law. Your support and friendships stand as testimony that our causes are shared and that international cooperation founded on mutual respect is not only possible but essential. Dear comrades, in this year we mark both the 76th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China and the 80th anniversary of the victory over fascism. We must remember the millions of men and women who gave their lives in the struggle against imperialist barbarism. That achievement was more than a military triumph. It represented the affirmation of dignity of all humanity and the birth of a new hope. The brave Chinese people rose from the ruins and, through sacrifice, wrote one of the most glorious chapters in world history. Venezuela recognizes in that epic struggle the spiritual strength that continues to inspire the Chinese Revolution today, a beacon of sovereignty and social justice for its people and for the whole world. The People's Republic of China, with its renewed and robust global leadership, now puts forward proposals of great meaning and potential for humanity. such as the Global Governance Initiative presented by President Xi Jinping at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit held in Tianjin this year. This new international project complements the three initiatives previously advanced by China: the Global Development Initiative, Global Civilization Initiative, and the Global Security Initiative. Together, they point towards building a community of shared future for mankind, in full harmony with Venezuela's Bolivarian diplomacy of peace, and with a vision of a balanced world order based on the sovereign equality of states, respect for international law, genuine multilateralism, and a focus on well-being of peoples. Brothers and sisters, it is a source of pride for me to highlight that this year also marks 2 years since the establishment of the all-weather and all-round strategic partnership between Venezuela and China. Over these 2 years, China and Venezuela have strengthened an exemplary alliance founded on mutual trust, unwavering respect for sovereignty, and a shared vision of a fairer and multipolar world. The bonds of brotherhood between our nations have shown resilience in the face of global challenges, demonstrating that joint projects rooted in sincere cooperation and complementarity generate significant tangible benefits. In this context, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela reaffirms its steadfast commitment to working alongside the People's Republic of China to advance toward an even deeper bilateral relation, expanding contacts among communities, governments, political parties, parliaments, and academic institutions and businesses. Venezuela also extends its gratitude to the government and people of China for their valuable and unconditional support in the face of constant aggression by hegemonic powers, which seek to avoid the inevitable decline of their global dominance, pursue an aggressive multidimensional war against nations that refuse to submit to their dictates. In our country, the clear messages of support and solidarity from Beijing are received with open arms, particularly in relation to Venezuela's efforts to preserve peace and security in our Caribbean region, and especially in response to the recent hostile and illegal actions of the United States government, which threaten peace, security, and stability on the entire region. President Nicolás Maduro's commitment is clear. We must continue to strengthen regional unity in the face of external threats and persist in the genuine fight against drug trafficking, organized crime, and all the scourges that afflict our societies, calling for a regional cooperation within the framework of international law. Finally, in this context, when as a nation and as a region we face multiple and complex challenges such as unilateralism and interventionism, that China has consolidated itself as a true friend and a beacon of light for sovereign peoples and governments that still struggle for full independence. Today, through its clear international leadership, China offers us a pathway of progress, cooperation, and development in a world where traditional hegemonic powers seek to impose their will on our people through violence, imperialism, and a supremacist and racist vision. Therefore, on this 76th anniversary of the People's Republic of China, the people and government of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela reiterate their profound gratitude and fraternity with the people and government of China. At the same time, we reaffirm that our doors remain wide open for the deepening of all mutually beneficial cooperation between China and Venezuela, as well as with the whole of Latin America, in every possible sphere, broadening it beyond our strategic and political and energy partnership towards the development of all areas of exchange and investment. In doing so, we aim to contribute to the well-being of our peoples, the development of both nations, and the creation of collective strengths to build a more just, inclusive, peaceful, and equitable multipolar world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Councillor Hernández Maya. I think that what you have said reminds us, of course, of the grave threat that Venezuela is facing today, which is part of the chaos being fomented by the United States, but it is taking particularly militaristic forms vis-à-vis Venezuela. And that is where, of course, solidarity between all the countries that oppose US militarism, hegemonism, etc., is going to be such an important resource. Thank you very much again. We will now go to, we have 3 more speakers, and I should say we're not exactly sure whether Mr. George Galloway is going to show up, but we are going to wait and see what happens, but we have 2 speakers before then. So we will go to, first to Mr. Thavone Singharaj, Deputy Head of Mission of the Embassy of the Lao People's Democratic Republic.
Thank you, comrades, moderators, comrades and friends. It is a privilege for me to be here with you all together, like a comrades here. And I would also like to thank Kees Bennett for giving me this opportunity for me. This is my first time to join. And as you may know, this year is the 76th anniversary of the founding of the Republic of China. And while I'm taking the floor, I'd like to express my congratulations and appreciation for the successful hosting of 25th Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit and the commemoration marking 80th anniversary of the victory of the Chinese People's War, of the resistance against Japanese aggression and the World Anti-Fascist War held earlier this month. And these 2 historic events organized by the party and the states of China are considered to be elevated the role of the Communist Party of China and the People's Republic of China on the international stage, showing the world community the strength and the growth of the people of China amidst the complex changes and regional and international situation in recent years. I would also like to congratulate the outstanding achievement that the party, the state, and the people of China have achieved over the leadership of the Communist Party of China, with the General Secretary and President Xi Jinping at the core, especially the implementation of the resolution of the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China and the 14th Five-Year Plan for Socio-Economic Development of Chinese government, just to name some. And as you may know, back to 25th April 1961, Laos and China established the diplomatic relation. And this year, marking 64th anniversary of diplomatic relations of our 2 countries. Since then, our bilateral relation and cooperation have gradually enhanced from strength to strength. Our 2 nations have stood side by side through the time of struggle and currently working together to advancing socialist development and prosperity. The latest visit to China by His Excellency Thongloun Sisoulith, the General Secretary of the Lao People Revolutionary Party and the President of the Lao PDR on 4th to 6th September, has brought our bilateral relation into a greater height. Our 2 nations have signed a total of 11 important documents, which is to chart out our future direction. These 2 leaders, our 2 leaders, reaffirmed the commitment to work together and also agreed to focus on the operation of the China Railway and the development along the route to upgrade the key projects, for example, defense, law enforcement and security, and other fields. In addition, both sides value that the Lao-China or China-Laos relationship is now at the best of the history and work together to implement the new shared Future Master Plan 2024 to 2028, and pledged to accelerate its implementation for even greater success, which has laid a strong foundation for the cooperation across the multiple sector. To date, China is the largest investor and major trading partner. In 2024, the value of our bilateral trade reached a record of $8 billion, an increase of 15.9% in the previous year. Among the key achievements, the Laos-China Railway has become a flagship symbol of the partnership, transporting more than 50 million passengers seen coming into service. The railway has transformed the Laos country from the landlocked country into landlinks hub, connecting it with our neighbor country like Thailand, Singapore, and beyond. This increased connectivity has boosted tourism, trade, economic growth, people-to-people exchanges. Comrades and friends, as you may know, the Laos-China Economics Corridor is a major infrastructure and economics development initiative links to our two countries as a crucial part of overall Belt and Road Initiative, aiming at enhancing connectivities, trade, investment, as well as people-to-people exchanges between our two nations. Notably, the Boten-Vientiane Railway is the most prominent project. The railway is not only a catalyst for trade, but also the symbol for broader strategic cooperation. In March 2025, the railway celebrated a major milestone with a surpass of 56 million cargo transported since the inception in December 2021. At the heart of the China and Laos Economic Corridor lies the China-Laos Railway, a flagship of $6 billion under the BRI, and the 1,035 kilometers railway connects Kunming in China, Yunnan province to the Lao capital Vientiane, and serve as a physical and strategic backbone for the economic development across the region. Since its launches in December 2021, the railway has only redefined regional logistics, but also become a vital artery and of the emerging Laos-China Economic Corridor. So, comrades and friends, I'm very happy to see that the traditional friendship between Laos and China is at its best in the history of the relation between our two nations. The establishment of the partnership of shared future between our two countries has been actively implemented and has yielded tangible results. The two countries continue to have close political and security cooperation and high-level political trust, which is an important foundation for the promoting the deepening of economic and trade cooperation and bringing the tangible result to our two people. In terms of party cooperation, this year is the final year of the implementation of the 2021 and 2025 Inter-Party Cooperation Plan and the Inter-Party Personnel Training Cooperation Plan, which two sides have jointly implemented in a great success. Both sides have agreed to renew the plan for next 5 years. Comrades and friends, as you may know, Laos is only the only landlocked country in Southeast Asia and one of the existing communist countries. Despite many difficulties, under the comprehensive leadership of the Lao People Revolutionary Party, the Lao PDR, or Laos, you may know, has been able to ensure political stability and the national security, and people enjoy basic social peace and continuously grow the economy and gradually improve the people's living standard. At present, Laos is now focusing on the implementation of the solution of the 11th the National Congress in the final stage and preparing for this upcoming National Congress, this 12th one, that will be held earlier next year. More importantly, this year marked a jubilee, a golden jubilee of Laos. One is the 20th anniversary of the founding of the Lao Revolutionary Party and 50th anniversary of our Independence Days. And my final point, as this is the first time that I join, and I think that you will get a chance to know about Laos more, and I'm ready to work with you if you need more. Finally, I wish to thank Keith Bennett for make this happen together with your able team for your tireless work. And may I wish all comrades, friends, and distinguished guests good luck, good health, and greater success in your noble task and undertaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singharaj. That was also a very important and timely reminder of the potential for solidarity between socialist countries, between countries that oppose imperialism, and support development, security, and fair means of global governance. So that was really very good. Thank you. Our next speaker is Professor Zhang Weiwei. This will be, his speech will take the form of a video since he's not present at the moment here with us. So please, go ahead. Professor Zhang Weiwei is author and professor of international relations at Fudan University.
Dear comrades and friends, on the occasion of the 76th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China, I wish to extend my warm greetings to all of you on the convening of Socialist China Conference in London. Indeed, for over 76 years, under the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party, Socialist China has overcome unimaginable challenges of all sorts and become the world's largest economy by purchasing power parity since 2014. With the world's largest industrial and manufacturing power, and lifted over 800 million people out of abject poverty, and created the world's largest middle class. Today, China also has a life expectancy higher than the United States, with a per capita consumption of protein and vegetables also higher than the United States. Aside from these economic and social achievements, China has also become a science and technology superpower. According to a recent report of the ASPI, China leads the United States in 57 out of 64 critical technologies. Militarily, China has also built up a powerful defense capability. In United States Secretary of Defense Hex's words, China's missile system can sink all U.S. aircraft carriers within 20 minutes. Ideologically, China's rise represents the rise of a civilizational state, an amalgam of the world's longest continuous civilization and super large modern socialist state, with deep-rooted belief in one humanity rather than on the table or in the menu, in peaceful coexistence and win-win cooperation of all nations rather than zero-sum game, and unite and prosper rather than divide and rule. With all this, China is forever different, and the world is forever different, and the world cause of socialism is forever different. Whatever challenges ahead, China will overcome. Let's work together to vigorously promote global peace and development, the great cause of socialism, and a more just, fair, democratic, and peaceful multipolar world order to come. Again, my hearty congratulations to all of you for the success of your conference. Thank you all. Thank you.
Okay, some very important and timely reminders from Professor Zhang Weiwei. I think with that, we will bring this first opening panel to a close. I'd like to thank all the speakers once again for their extremely thoughtful and enlightening speeches. And we will now go without a break to the next panel, which will be chaired by Francisco Dominguez. Where are you, Francisco? There you are. Thank you very much.